So let me introduce you to the what I'm calling the argument challenger, and we're going to start with this today. And your goal is to identify several topics that you might be interested in debating, and then for each one, you're going to uh, produce what would be your proposition or the belief that you actually have in that topic. Now, sometimes and many times in debate, because you're working on your skills with assembling evidence and arguments, etc., you want to be able to debate either side of the issue. It doesn't have to, nor should it necessarily have to be something something that you believe about a topic. But what we're doing here is I want you to clarify, meaning make it clearer, deconstruct, get it so that other people, or in this case, you're not going to be sharing with other people, but to get your argument or the reasons for your belief about a specific topic clearer. And then once I've gotten some feedback from y'all, I'm going to have other people in a completely anonymous way. They'll be able to look at your proposition, your argument in a specific topic, and they'll be able to offer challenging questions. So, for instance, let's say that you say, I believe that capital punishment, the death penalty, is wrong, or I believe that it's not useful, or I believe that it should be outlawed. So then what you're going to do is let's just look at this step by step. You're going to propose a topic, so we'll just say death penalty. Now remember, you can do whatever you want right now. This is only available to you and me. So you can decide. You can make these weighty topics like the death penalty, or you can make them frivolous topics like the best football team, the best TV show. You can do really whatever you want, but identify something that you would like to be engaged in with regards to debate club, because part of what we're going to do is we want to debate around topics that are of interest. So you say death penalty. Then the next one is you're going to make your proposition or state your belief. And so in this situation, you want to say at a debate, we're going to have something called a resolution, right? And the resolution is going to be the death penalty is unconstitutional. And then one side is going to be affirmative and one side is going to be negative. So the affirmative side would say the death penalty they agree with that resolution, and then the other side would argue against that resolution. So in this situation, take your topic and say, what is my proposition? What is my belief here? And so I'm going to say the death penalty, I'll take the death penalty is constitutional or is effective or should be retained or whatever that is. So you don't, in that point, you don't have to say because then now you're going to do your arguments, enter your supporting arguments. And you can do as many of these arguments as you want, but I want you to do at least 3 to 5 arguments, which is, in this case, you're saying, what are the reasons that you believe the thing that you just believed, right? So in many cases, you have a belief, right? You have lots of beliefs and lots of things that you believe, but we want to clarify what are your arguments, what are the reasons, all right? What are the premises of your belief? And so in this situation, you say, I say death penalty is constitutional, and I say the death penalty existed when the Constitution, I'm going to not worry about my spelling, was founded, etc. So now what you're doing here is just clarifying your arguments. So now in the death penalty is constitutional, there would be different arguments than if I said the death penalty should be retained or the death penalty should be abolished, right? Because then you're giving other types of arguments. But so what you're going to do is just clarify your arguments here, and they'll all be saved, okay? And we'll talk about what we're going to do with those later. But right now, remember, this is not something where we're exposing your arguments to other people. And if later on we do expose them to other people, they won't be exposed as your arguments. They'll just be exposed as arguments. So now let's say you go through and you say your different arguments, the reasons that you believe the thing that you stated in the proposition. Now I want you to take the opposite approach. What would be, and I don't want you to give arguments for the opposite proposition. You know, like if you said the death penalty should be abolished as your proposition, I don't want you to then say give arguments why it shouldn't. I want you to give the questions. Like if somebody was challenging you, what are the types of questions they would ask? Like they might say, well, don't you think that, let's say you're going to say that the death penalty should be abolished or should not be abolished. Well, maybe one of the and you put in here the death penalty is a deterrent, and you know victims of crimes or the families of victims of crimes deserve justice, or there are certain crimes that need to have this type of penalty. Great, those are your arguments, right? Now I want you to take a switch and say, what would somebody who has the opposing view, what would be some of the questions that they might ask you? Right? What are the sort of challenging questions? So for instance, one would be, well, what if it's proven that the death penalty is not a deterrent? Or don't you think it's inconsistent to have justice be connected with revenge? Or what if, isn't it cruel and unusual punishment? Or don't you think it blurs the line? Whatever those things are, right? I just want you to get into the head of somebody who has a different belief and clarify what the opposing, challenging questions would be. Because what we definitely want to do is make sure that you have thought about those questions and you have a response to those questions. Or, you know, maybe those questions change your belief. But remember, the same process is going on the other side. Somebody who says the death penalty should absolutely be abolished. Well, they're right now coming up with challenging questions like, aren't there certain crimes that are so heinous that? Or is it fair to society to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep this person in crisis? And so what we're doing here is we're giving you an opportunity in a very safe way. And we're only doing the first couple steps right now, right? We're just having you clarify. But in a very safe way, I want you to have the opportunity to think about your specific beliefs. So you enter those here, say, but what about this? Or have you thought about this? Right? And you submit those. These are for I'm still on arguments. Once you're done with enter your supporting arguments, click that, and now it takes you to challenge your proposition. But what about this? Have you thought about this? And I want you to ask these questions as if you're talking to that person. And you can keep doing that, and then once you're done, you click once complete. And then I want you to review your arguments. Look at your arguments that are listed here. And I have on the right, and this is a growing list of logical fallacies. And we're still sort of very, very early on in terms of how logic works. But you want to look at and say, do any of my arguments demonstrate illogical, non-logical thinking? For instance, if I say the death penalty is unconstitutional or the death penalty should be abolished because a lot of people think that it should be abolished, well, that's reasonable. We live in a democratic society. But if you say the death penalty is not effective because a lot of people want it abolished, that doesn't really follow. That's the argument based on popularity. And, popularity might be a reasonable argument if you're trying to decide whether something is popular. And it may be a reasonable argument to decide whether something should be changed in a democratic society, one that is ruled by the people. But it's not necessarily an argument. It's a flawed logical argument when you're saying something is unconstitutional or is constitutional, or something is effective or ineffective, or moral or immoral, or whatever. So just take a look at your arguments and see if you notice any of these. And on each of these, I'm going to be fleshing this out. So right now it's a little low, but each of these you just click on there and it will tell a description of these different things. And we're going to be fleshing out these logical fallacies as we go. And remember, this is not pure logic. This is just your topic, the kind of statement of the argument. Death penalty is effective. Death penalty is not effective. Football is a better sport than soccer. The comedies are better than dramas, whatever the belief that you have about your topic. And then you're going to be placing your arguments here, and then you're going to put on a different hat, what's called sometimes the devil's advocate, which is taking a position, the opposing position, and asking questions, and in this case, I just want them to be challenge questions. Have you thought about this? Have you considered this? What about this? Because these are the types of questions basically we're going to take those questions and challenge the people who have other beliefs about that. All right. And then once you're done, if you want to, you can do a new topic by clicking here, and that will restart. And all of your stuff is being saved, and then I'll talk to you about what happens afterwards.